Hi, and welcome to this game analysis video. Uh, I'm gonna do some game analysis from the tournament that I just played in Poland, the Najdorf Memorial. My first tournament abroad in a while. I have played in the British League, the 4NCL, a few times, but that's a league play and that's usually just 2 or 3 days. So my first tournament overseas for quite a while. And yeah, I was a little bit rusty. I haven't been playing as much as I was doing maybe, 5, 6 years ago. And I want to, try to get more volume in and try to finish my last IM norm and get my rating over 2400 to get the title. So yeah, this one was a few weeks ago in July, Najdorf Memorial in Poland. And okay, I had to travel during the night, and the first round was the day after. So not much that I could do to prepare for the first round game. I went to a tournament with a friend of mine from Iceland, FIDE master also, Sigurbjörn Björnsson. So we didn't have much time to prepare for the first round. I think we met around noon in Warsaw, and we had to find our apartment, get our stuff over there, then go to the venue where you pay the entry fee, stuff like this. And yeah, okay, then we went back for a nap, but the pairings weren't ready. This is like three hours before the round. So all we can do is, try to figure out. You can look at the players list, and you can see maybe 2 or 3 names that you're likely to play against. And okay, I had a quick look, but I decided just rather to rest. And the thing is, you also don't know the color in the first round. So I think the pairings finally they were ready about an hour before the round, but there's not much you can do. And the only thing I knew before the first round was that most likely my opponent would play pawn to e4, and I just decided to stick with what I know best and play the French defense, even though I saw some games where he played e takes d5, the exchange variation. But anyway, I'm gonna move on to the game, and my goal here is to try to cover at least 1 game a week, hopefully more, but I think that's a reasonable goal. 1 game a week, and also that means that I will finish going over these before my next tournament, which is most likely the Icelandic League. So let's move on to the games. The game. So yeah, let's move on to the game and let's focus on it. So I'm removing my face, my video camera. So black against Michal Karpus, a Polish kid, I think 14 or 15, rated 2114, and that's always tough because you can play somebody who might have a higher rating than he should have because of the K factor of 40. You could play somebody that's around the strength that he should be, but you also could get somebody that's just waiting to skyrocket up the rating list. So yeah, it's a little bit, yeah, I don't want to say scary, but there are a lot of things you don't know. So anyway, I decided to stick to my French defense, the opening that I've played, for most of my career with black against e4. He went knight f3, and I did see 1 game while briefly looking at his games before the round. 1 game with his system, and after knight c3, we have, well, it's clear that he wants to play the Steinitz variation. I briefly pondered going c5 here, since I have been looking at some Sicilian as well. But ultimately, you know, for the first round, not being able to prepare, you know, as well to brush up on the lines before the tournament, before the round, I decided to play the French. So okay, possibly black could play here d4, but I think that's more or less what white likes. Okay, we have to protect the pawn that was attacked on d4. This little guy here. And now white sort of gets what he wants, knight g3. He will put the bishop out somewhere, bishop to c4, then play d3. And yeah, have a solid grip on the light squares. Meanwhile, you know, okay, we have a space advantage here, but this pawn we kind of have to move again to get this typical white pawn structure that we get against old Indian, King's Indian structure. We're basically playing with white because of that, because of the space advantage. But on the other hand, we lost one tempo because of black, and playing e6, e5, we will lose another one. And yeah, I'm not so fond of this line, although it might be okay for black. Knight f6 is the most popular move, going back, and that's what I played. And here we followed the most common played moves: knight f to d7, d4, c5, and pawn takes c5. And this is the I think it's called the Steinitz variation. We can also reach this through a more classical move order, but this is a very direct move order by white, getting the system. And the idea of the system is, I played knight c6, the most natural and common move. We can also take immediately, but that's not what I did right away. And white's idea here is, he did play bishop f4. And the idea is more or less to overprotect this this pawn on e5, and you have a lot of pieces doing that. Eventually, the bishop will come out to d3, the queen will come to e2, and there we have another guy that can potentially protect the pawn on e5. So white voluntarily gives up the center, but yeah, sort of in the spirit of Nimzowitsch, playing for overprotection. And the typical way things go here is, yeah, I played a6, but bishop takes c5 is a typical move here. When play usually develops like this. I think we have to play f6 here, otherwise we might get Greek gifted. Knight takes f6. Usually white castles, queen t2 is also an interesting line, or queen e2 with long castles. But yeah, this is more or less okay. Bishop g3 is a nice prophylactic move, but we see here that okay, black managed to execute his break with f6 and c5, but on the other hand, white has got good control of this e5 square, and he will try to cement that control with moves like rook e1, maybe queen e2. And the thing that black must watch out for here is to end up with a bad bishop against a good knight, which is often what white is playing for. He's playing for domination on the black squares. During the game, okay, he played bishop f4, but I spent some time looking at bishop g5. I've never seen this move, and I thought, okay, well, I probably must play bishop e7 here, because otherwise knight b5 might be annoying. And I thought, yeah, we'll see something like this. And Yeah, I think black shouldn't have any problems here. We're going to take on c5 next. White must take care of e5, and the only natural way to do that is really bishop b5, because if you play queen e2, I mean, we're getting in the way of normal development just to protect this pawn. So black should be fine here, and yeah, it was just random thoughts that I had during the game. But I'll get bishop f4. And instead of going bishop takes c5, which would transpose to the main line, I played here a6. And I sort of wanted to, well, number one, remove the autoplay for white here, not allow him to play completely on autoplay. I didn't want to allow him to have his preparation in, and also, yeah, I had some ideas here. I had played this line actually before. So bishop d3 and knight takes c5. So instead of taking with the bishop, I take with the knight. I'm losing some time here, but I want to gain the bishop pair. So my idea is to take on d3 next move. He could consider losing time with bishop e2, but he just castled here, and now I took on d3. White should be just fine here, of course. He has, well, two choices here: queen takes d3 or pawn takes d3. I think pawn takes d3 is it's quite okay. I'm not sure which one is better. Either way, white will try to control the d4 square, and ideally he would like to put a knight there. And just as in the other variation, he's dreaming of a knight on d4 against the bishop on c8. So let's see what happens. I was quite happy with my position at this point. You know, I'm solid here. It's the first round. You know, you're not sure how your form is. You want to see what happens, and having eliminated the bishop on d3, I don't have to worry about any sacrifices on h7. So that made me quite happy. I'm not going to get mated easily, and I can play a slow positional game. And yeah, when you don't know the strength of your opponent when he's this young, I mean, usually you want to avoid a tactical skirmish, and you want to have a technical game. So okay, here he played rook c1, and I played bishop to d7. And yeah, I think this was the first point in the game where I actually calculated something. I felt that was a little bit clever. Probably I was. He played a3, but knight a4 looks tempting. But here I had prepared knight to b4. And here knight c5 might look natural, but I will take it. And my idea was bishop b5 when all of a sudden my pieces come alive. Note that, yeah, taking on a2, he can probably just play queen b3. And I'm not getting my knight out too easily. That might have been the idea with knight c5. I mean, he gets the black squared bishop, the one he wants, because now I'm weak on the black squares. Potential knight on d4, etc. But with bishop b5, I'm winning a pawn here. This guy is under attack, and if he protects, well, first of all, if he plays d4, I play knight d3. He can't do that. So rook c3, but now we can take on a2. Well, I'm hoping I would have realized that, because while looking at the position before knight a4, my plan was to play d4. But I had missed that he can take it and play rook e4. So a small minus for me, missing this. But hopefully, since the calculation was you know, moderately deep. I mean, I'm calculating knight a4 here, which is not really necessary, but it's natural. But I'm hoping I would have found knight takes a2 once we would have gotten the position. After this, knight c5 takes, bishop b5. Replace rook c3. I mean, of course you re-evaluate, and I'm sure I would have found knight takes a2 here. So instead he played a3. I played rook c8. And again I was trying to be clever. A little bit worried about knight a4 again. And the thing with knight a4 is that, in general, if white can force this exchange, I mean, I don't have to take. And like we talked about, black squares can become somewhat weak. Already there's an outpost here for the white pieces. White can dream about the d4 square. My bishop, not so great. But here I had prepared a typical tactical shot in the French. Okay, in many openings, but here it's rather effective. I think I can play knight takes e5 here. Let's get the pieces working again. Knight takes e5. The rook is hit. Kaboom. And yeah, so of course if you take on e5, I take on c5. You can take with the bishop, like this. But I will be up a pawn. And I thought, you know, he's not going to be able to maybe take with the queen. And I thought at some point I'll be able to play f6. And once I get my pawns rolling on the black squares, my bishop will start to feel better. And I think the pawn would count here, definitely. So let's look at this line again. No, it's not. It's after this knight here. I'm working with new software here, so it's, well, web-based software. So making some errors here, but nothing too serious. Knight takes e5. So yeah, and if he takes on c8, of course I have the Swiss hook. Knight takes f3 check. Queen takes, and I think my plan was to take with the bishop here. He gets some initiative here because he has moves like queen g3, threatening bishop to h6. But I thought I would be able to blunt everything here with f6. Let's say rook c1. Well, then I can play e5 already. So maybe this and here. But again, once I get e5 in and my bishop starts working, then I think the extra pawn again should count. I mean, still white is not without counterplay, but I was willing to play this. So going back to the game, rook c8. He played b4 and now played a typical move that we often see in the advanced variation, b5. And the idea is quite often to play a5 and try to use the pieces here to line up against the weak white pawns here. Already have the bishop attacking. The knight is ready as well. So there's going to be some pressure on the queen side. That's what I'm hoping, at least. So he played queen b3. And yeah, here I played the move a5. I did ponder the move g5, which the computer is actually suggesting, but I didn't really see any concrete follow-up. Okay, the computer gives this, g4, knight d2, bishop g5, queen b2, knight d4. And okay, maybe, I mean, I might have some tricks, but I mean, for a human, this is a little bit risky, if I recall correctly. I had used some time, you know, because, well, my first tournament in a while, so you tend to maybe double check things. But you don't want to weaken your position too much if you're not sure. Okay, I might have some ideas like taking here and then playing knight b3. But on the other hand, that would leave my king side quite weak. Also, there are some ideas like rook takes c3 and then to knight e2 check in some lines if the rook moves this guy. But all in all, it all felt a little bit risky, and I decided on a more standard idea here with a5. And I did have in mind a trick here. He played knight takes b5. And here I was quite happy with myself, because my original idea here was to play rook b8. I however played a takes b4. The thing with that is, if I play rook b8 immediately, then most likely he will be able to find the move a4. Because otherwise, he's just in trouble. I mean, if he moves the knight, I take on b4. Well, sorry, I take on d4 first. Then I take this. Okay, if he takes, then my bishop takes. There's a discovered attack. That's scary. So a4, but now maybe queen a5. And now my pieces have big pressure on this a4 pawn, which is a target. Black looks fine here. Pass pawn with a rook behind it. Black should have the advantage. If, on the other hand, yeah, so if I go, let's get the point across again. If I play rook b8, yeah, he should be able to find a4. Okay, now I'll take on b4, which I quite like. Probably I would take with a pawn, play queen a5 again, and pressure on a4. Oh, yeah, also knight a5 was an idea, pressure on b5. But I felt at least he had some chances in this position. So if I start with what I did in the game, a takes b4, I thought it was less likely that he would find a4, because his knight isn't attacked. So it's more natural to take back on a4 or on b4, which he did. So pawn takes b4. So what I did essentially was I changed the move order, and the way I changed it, I gave him more chances to go wrong. I gave him options. And I've talked about this before, and I think it's a very, very important concept against low-rated players. One that was kind of taught to me many years ago by an international friend of mine. And yeah, I've thought about it a lot, and it just makes so much sense. I mean, you play a game, and there's only a set number of moments in the game, and you have to maximize the number of these moments so that your strength can shine through in the game. Because presumably you're higher rated, you should be the one making better moves, making less mistakes. So you have to make the moves, make the moments, more moments for your opponent to go wrong. Simple concept, maybe too simple because I couldn't get it across properly, but I hope you got the gist of it. Just give your opponent options. So in this position, now I play rook b8. And now it's too late. There's no a4 to think about here. If I had played rook b8 first, then maybe, okay, a4, protect the knight, go from here. But now, he's in a world of hurt. And the main point, of course, is if the knight moves. And it doesn't really matter if it goes to d6 or c3. The main problem is that the bishop on f4 will be hanging. Very important. So he doesn't have a lot of options, and knight b to d4 is what was played in the game. I took on d4. He took back, and now bishop takes b4. Yeah, and here we had another moment which I think is of interest. So I'm threatening just to take on e1, and if you move the rook, let's say rook e2, I play bishop d2, and again the unprotected bishop has to pay a price here. Of course the queen is attacked, discovered attack. But this is actually what my opponent should have done. He should have played this, and here he should have sacked the queen. And this is probably the most accurate way to do it. Take with the rook on d2. And let me take on b3. Don't take on b8, let me take on b3. And now your knight is a little bit more active. It can jump to c5. You can also think about improving this guy. You can also maybe come to c5. And you can maybe double the rooks. And okay, while I think black should be able to win, I mean, I don't know if it's a winning position, but I think in a practical game, if I can get some exchanges in, I think black should be able to make white suffer. But it could be tricky. I mean, with all the pawns on one side of the board, it's quite possible that white can set up a fortress. I haven't really studied it, so I mean, but yeah, this is definitely what he should have done. But after blundering, he didn't buckle down and fight. And that's another lesson that I think both me and my partner took from this tournament. Is that yeah, you just have to fight. I mean, you blunder, but this is what the grandmasters do. I mean, they have a tough position. They have a pawn down rook ending. Tough position. They find, they try to find a solution, try to complicate things. They save the rook ending. And this is so often the difference between, just somebody 200-300 points higher rated than you. He will just have more fighting spirit, and he will not buckle and give in. And I think my opponent, he was visibly shaking his head after this rook b8, bishop takes b4 stuff, and I could see he was disappointed, and that both gave me confidence, in this first round in a while. And also I think, it diminished his fighting spirit when he should have been trying to find some moves. He was instead resigning in his head. So of course I take the exchange here, and my pieces are really quick to come into the game here. Queen b6, natural move, attacking the knight. Bishop goes back to e3, threatening maybe some discoveries. Nothing dangerous actually, but I get out of the line of fire. Queen b8. I'm not gonna allow this guy to attack my queen. Now I turn the tables. Now your pawn is attacked. You have to do something about it. He plays queen g4. But this allows me to exchange some more pieces, and that's usually what you want to do when you have a material advantage. And yeah, my opponent didn't put up much resistance from here. Knight takes e1. I won a pawn here. And of course the point is, if you go here, threatening stuff on g7, then, well, you're opening up mate yourself. Knight e2, queen a1 check. He has to go back. Now rook c8. Still no time for bishop d4 because we have mate down here. So queen d1. But now, I mean, he has no coordination. My pieces are active. I just have to avoid any back rank issues, and it's not going to be a problem. Queen c3. Since I have the extra pawn, I don't have to worry about further exchanges. Queen c2. And yeah, now queen d1 is coming. Exchanging the queens with the bishop supporting, so nothing to be done. And I think my opponent resigned here. Yeah, that's what it did. So a good start for me, because these first rounds can be nerve-wracking, and I was a little bit worried, both because of the young opponent and because of the long journey. I had been traveling for, yeah, I think over 10 hours, 2 flights, and during the night as well. So, yeah, a bit worried, but fortunately, a good start for me. And yeah, I will try to keep up. I'm gonna finish this tournament. I'm gonna analyze all the games and yeah, see what I can learn. Hopefully, point out some things that you can pick up yourself as well. So thanks for sticking in here if you're still here, and I'll see you later. Thank you. Bye bye.